hello to all of my fans. I'm Alan Levine, the Talking Machine, and I'm doing one of my on-location Talking Machine shows at the legendary Lamont on Mount Washington. My good friend is co-hosting this. Joanne Forrester, tell them why we're here.
Well, thank you, Alan, first for bringing your show here. I'm honored.
You're welcome.
This is an event by Celebrate and Share, and Celebrate and Share has been honoring Women's History Month and other events.
I'm all for women.
Yes, I know.
Women power.
Yes. And we have been doing this for over 20 years, each year celebrating women's.
God bless you. That's great.
And we celebrate women's history, and share is we share with some type of nonprofit. This year we're sharing with Progress Through Pages.
That is great.
And we have people donating books, and we're hoping that people donate money so that we can allow the founder of Share.
You are the founder with Bonnie DiCarlo.
That's right. I forgot to mention Bonnie DiCarlo.
Well, you know I'm a name dropper, so we're honored to be here, but tell them how to get a hold of you to donate and contact you.
Well, the best way to get a hold of myself or Bonnie DiCarlo is by our cell phones.
Say it slow, because I'm old.
My cell phone, Joanne Forrester, 412-670-4322.
Please do again.
412-670-4322. And Bonnie DiCarlo's must have her phone calls.
Why not? She can handle it. I like her.
Yes. Her cell phone number is 412-480-5247. That's 412-480-5247.
Thank you, and please contact them to get involved with what they're doing for women in our area and around the country.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Celebrate and Share event celebrating Women's History Month. I'm so glad that we are all together. This powerful, powerful room of women is so fantastic to look out and see. And also our three women legislators who will be speaking to us later. How about a round of applause? I know that if you had the chance that you voted for them. I'm sure you did, because they are the most wonderful group. We now have 7 representatives, I believe, women from Allegheny County, 6 in the House and 1 in the Senate. And we have the Supreme Court Justice. Chief Justice is a woman, Chief Justice Deborah Todd. And that leads me into announcing some of the people who are here today before we start. And since I started with the Supreme Court, I will introduce the candidate for Supreme Court, Debbie Kunselman, who is here with us today. Debbie was about 16 years on Common Pleas Court in Beaver County, and then she was elected 6 years ago to the Superior Court, which is a state court, and now she is running for Supreme Court. So please remember Debbie Kunselman. She will be our next justice on the Supreme Court. We also have other people here that I would like to recognize. Corey O'Connor, who is our county controller, had to leave to go to another event. He was here for about a half an hour, and a lot of you got to speak with him, so we appreciate Corey's support. Is this on? No, it's not on. Well, anyway.
We can hear you.
Right. We also have some other people who are running for office who are here. Erica Bristlar, who is running for county treasurer. So if you live in Allegheny County, you can get to vote for Erica. We have your first name. Ashley Domans, who is here. Yeah. Comans, who is here running for school board, right, in Wilkinsburg. Yes, and so if you live in Wilkinsburg, please remember Ashley. I had a list and I don't have it with me. What other candidates do I have in the room right now? No other? If you don't speak up. I have this story. I neglected a long time ago when we had breakfast. We had a lot of legislators who were there, and they were all male at that time. And I tried to keep a list of everybody, and so I introduced everybody as we started the breakfast. And I left off the person who came first to the breakfast, and he's a friend of mine. And so I said, like I always do, if anybody here I forgot, please just let me know, raise your hand, and he didn't. And when we sat down for breakfast, he got up and left and said to the people at the table, "So what does she think I am, chopped liver?" I went, oh my gosh. So I always make sure that I continue to say, did I miss anybody?
I think Brian Neff is on his way.
He is, and yes, Brian Neff is on his way, and Brian will be here. He is an honorary sponsor. He is the candidate running for Commonwealth Court, which is a statewide court. So I hope you get a chance to meet and greet when Brian comes a little bit later. I am very happy to be here. We have been doing this, Joanne and I, with Celebrate and Share since 2002 in different places, different venues, breakfasts, lunches, picnics, ice cream socials, everything that you can think of. And so we hope to be doing this in the future also. We are glad that you are here today. And at this point, I would like to introduce my cohort in crime and friend and very good friend, Joanne Forrester, who is the not only co-founder of Celebrate and Share, but also the president of the Pennsylvania Women's Hall of Achievement. Joanne, take the microphone.
Good afternoon. It is great to see all of you. And yes, Monty and I have been doing this since time began. Okay. And this is my speech. Now, when I first started speaking, it was at 12 point. It's now at 20 point. You know what I mean, right, ladies? So March is Women's History Month. It is a month that we acknowledge the untold stories of our lives. Our individual stories weave a tapestry that contains threads of happiness and sorrow, despair and joy, foolishness and wisdom, prejudice and grace, triumphs and defeats, love and hatred, compassion and brutality. We do daily tasks and we accomplish monumental feats. All of this is woven into an unending tapestry of stories that began at the dawn of time. Women's lives, our lives, have laid the foundation of humankind. Yet, for the most part, our contributions, our stories have been forgotten, buried, stolen, ridiculed, or dismissed. Their voices are whispers, our voices are whispers, compared to the booming drums of standard history. And we want to restore that. The sounds of generations of women's voices are now starting to emerge and be heard through the celebration of Women's History Month. Our words have the power to create ideas that will last generations. And I want you to give you an example. How many of you know Abigail Smith Adams? Well, she wrote to her husband on March 31st, 1776, while he's in Philadelphia trying to put together the Declaration of Independence with a few cohorts. She wrote him. She was very forward-thinking, and she said, I want you to remember the women. And she said, exactly. I long to hear that you've declared independency and declaring rights and writing a constitution. But I ask you to remember the ladies and be more generous and favorable to them than your ancestors. Thinking of the tyranny of the unlimited government by the British, Abigail then added, do not put such unlimited power in the hands of husbands. Remember, all men would be tyrants if they could. If particular care is not paid to the ladies, we are determined to foment a rebellion, and we will not hold ourselves bound by any laws until we have no voice or representation. Now that was in 1776. His response was laughter, of course, and he just, oh, aren't you a nice little girl? Meanwhile, this little girl, woman's holding down the farm. What did we do?
Go ahead.
Can y'all hear me? Okay. This little woman is holding down the farm, supporting him and the family, and he's saying, no, you don't have a voice. I'm surprised I stayed married. Aren't you? Let's fast forward. Okay?
There you go.
There we go. In 1848, you've heard of, that's not working. Oh, it is? Okay.
We can hear you up here.
Okay. You can hear me up here. Okay. In 1848, you've heard of Elizabeth Cady Stanton. Well, a few of her best friends got really sick and tired of being ignored. They were working for the abolition movement, but they had been shut to the back when they went to conventions to abolish
Time out, Joanne.
Yes.
We're hearing you fine, but you're going to have to talk into this mic so then they can all hear better.
Oh,
You want to hear great stories, right?
all right.
Yeah, just say it a little closer.
Closer.
You can't move as much, but move your hands around.
That's what you get when you're Italian. Okay, in 1848, this is being filmed for Bethel Park TV. Thank you. We know that Elizabeth Cady Stanton, with a few of her best friends, decided enough was enough. And they wrote the Declaration of Sentiments, declaring that women were equal to all men. And it started with this paragraph. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among them are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. 72 years later, we finally got the right to vote, but not everyone. Unfortunately, it took the Civil Rights Act of 1965 where many women had the right to vote. And today, it's being challenged again. So please make sure you go and you vote and you stay aware. That's why I'm so delighted that we have women representatives. And it's taken how many years? Like 300 to get this many. Women's History Month has its roots 112 years ago, with the International Women's Day was established in 1911. At that time, more than 1 million men and women attended IWD's rally, campaigning for women's right to work, to be trained, to own property without their husband's permission. All of you have credit cards. Remember, and Selena's just, remember, you couldn't have them without your husband's permission. So guard them. Okay? Today, each month of Women's History Month is declared by presidential proclamation, but the issues that fueled that movement still haven't been totally fulfilled. And that's one of the reasons we celebrate Women's History Month. We want women to recognize what price has been paid. Women of all diversity, you have paid a price. We are sisters together, and we have to work to keep that right. Our panelists are history makers. It's the first time that 7 women from our region are in the Pennsylvania House, and what Bonnie say, 1 in the Senate. We got to do better. And we look forward, and we have Minna. Minna, where are you? Minna's mother, Catherine Baker Knoll, was the first and only lieutenant woman governor.
African-American congresswoman.
Yes, we have the first, Summer Lee was the first first congresswoman. We're still waiting for the first governor and the first U.S. senator from our state. Remember that. Today I ask you to look around and say thank you to all the women. Say, I appreciate you, what you have done. And you guys make sure you do that too, because you've done it. But you still have work to do. Before COVID, I now call it BC, we had an event scheduled that we would recognize the League of Women Voters. And then COVID arrived and the whole world decided it needed to pause. And we never got to recognize the League of Women Voters. Would the president of the League of Women Voters come up?
Michelle Nolan.
The League of Women Voters is 103 years old. The League, it emerged from the suffrage movement. And there's a saying that says that women, well-behaved women, rarely make history. So we know that the early suffrage movement, they weren't well-behaved. They got arrested. They protested. They stood in front of the president's house. And we are still there with them in spirit. We registered thousands of high school seniors this year through the League. We reached over 10,000 with posters that we sent to the whole region. We are the largest league in the state of Pennsylvania. The most active, and I have 3 League board members with me today. Annette, Annette Scheimer, who runs 411 for us. Terry Griffin, who was the first black president of the state league, is on now. She's now our DE&I director. And Judy Clack, who is our vice president of voter service. So we're very happy to still be making trouble and causing people and always empowering voters and defending democracy. Thank you very much.
It's nice to catch up to things. One of the things that we wanted to do, we always do at Celebrate and Share, is honor a woman who has done something courageous, who has done something unusual, who stands out. And this year, both Bonnie and I have known Jessica Lee for a number of years. I think we're in the sandbox too, together. Amazing jazz artist, but also a community advocate, a community champion. And one of the things, come on down, girl. One of the things we wanted to do was to recognize her, not only for her artistry, but a lot of people don't know all the champion she does in the community. So we wanted to say thank you, we love you, and we know you are special.
God bless you. Thank you.
And we have a really unique gift.
Uh-oh, look out. So I'd like to just keep this short and sweet. It's great to be with everybody and to see all these wonderful shining faces, especially after the pandemic years, for everybody to be together. I always believe that the arts and music, they're the common language that can bring us together even when we're very polarized. And I like to use music in community to bring people together, and I currently do all kinds of multi-art jam sessions. So we have poets sitting in with the music and all kinds of things, and we've really enjoyed doing that around Pittsburgh. I want to today just remember our great friend Franco Harris with my remarks here, and to say I knew Franco for about 2 decades and was helping him with his legacy project, one of his many legacy projects, bringing the Crawford Grill back in the Hill District. And the building is stabilized. There's been properties purchased around it, and phase 1 is complete. And we're really glad about that. Franco has some things I wanted to just quickly pass on to you that he passed on to me. And phase 2, he had all ready to go. But a week before he signed the agreements to get ready to go to phase 2, we went up to the Hill District together, and we met at ACH Clear Pathways, the Hill House, and I'm a big supporter of them and their programming, Cayenne Battle. And we went outside, and we were standing in the hill, and Franco said, it was a 1 o'clock, sunny, cold winter day, a week before he passed. And he looked down at me and he said, "Jess, do you hear it?" I listened. I said, "What do you hear, Franco?" And he put his hands up like this. The sun was shining on his beautiful face. He had a peaceful smile on his face. He said, "Jess, can you hear peace?" I said, "Peace, Franco, you mean above all the unrest, the violence, the challenges, the drugs, the guns?" He nodded at me and smiled and he said, "Can you hear the peace?" Then he looked down at me and he said, "We're going to build something beautiful here." Those were the last words Franco said to me. I was supposed to sing at his Immaculate Reception party that Friday following. But Franco would tell me a couple of things that I want to tell you, and he'd tell them to me all the time. Something terrible would happen. Terrible, negative. No way else to look at it. And he would look at me and he would say, "That's great. That's an opportunity for us." The mind of a champion. That's great. That's an opportunity for us. He was three things to me that I want to pass on: persistently positive, eternally kind, and always patient with people. He didn't interrupt. He listened, and it was not because he was trying to be patient. He really wanted to know you. He wanted to really hear you. And so the last thing I'll say about Franco is he said to me, "Why do I want to do community projects with the arts and sports? Why do I want to do that?" He said, "We have to do two things, Jess. One, we have to help them have more fun. We have to have more fun together in the communities." And the second thing he said, we need to create sparks of hope. Spend your life creating sparks of hope, as small as they may be, and then look around and find other people who are creating little sparks of hope and connect with them. Do everything you can to connect. And that light is so bright that it will bridge us, not only to bring our communities together, but it will connect us to God and to eternity. And Franco is here with us. He loved every single one of you. He loved community. And so I just want to say it's an honor to work collaboratively with so many, to use the arts to build bridges between polarized factions and to build community with the arts. God bless you.
I'm going to now mention the names of the three representatives that we have here because I neglected to do so in the beginning. Latasha Mays, who is my representative. Mandy Steele, who is across the river from me. And Abigail Salisbury, who is pretty much where I was born, over there in the Swissville area. Our moderator this afternoon is Selena Schmidt, who is a very good friend of both Joanne and me. And I'm going to ask that you do something that is almost impossible not to talk. So that while we are eating and finishing our luncheon, we can hear the wonderful words from our moderator and from our representatives. So Selena Schmidt is the executive director of Coro Pittsburgh and has been for a number of years. And that's a fantastic program of training young people from all over the country. And we are one of the cities that is privileged to have a Coro office here. Selena has also been involved in many community affairs, some political. She has a good background. And so right now, I turn the microphone over to Selena Schmidt.
Well, at Coro, we have this one exercise that we do, and we call it a nonverbal group project. And we ask people who haven't worked together before to come together with this blank piece of paper that has a river on it. Well, and in Pittsburgh, it has 3 rivers on it. And we ask them to draw their ideal community. We have a couple of things that they have to have that are required. But from there, it's whatever. They haven't seen this exercise before. They cannot write words. They cannot use numbers. They cannot speak. And somehow, every single year we do this exercise, they come up with some pretty interesting ideas and work together to form that ideal community. Now there are some challenges, and it is a time limit, but we also have a time limit today. And that time limit is we need to be done by 2 so these folks can get out and do the important work that they're doing. So I'm going to ask that you play that game, because I know it's impossible for this group of people to not be talking about issues. But if you can do the nonverbal and express yourself through your body language and your faces, well, we'll count it as a Coro exercise day, and then you can all be alum as well. It is an extraordinary honor for me to be able to moderate this conversation with these 3 remarkable women. It is work of many people in this room's lifetime to be able to have a panel like this elected for the Pennsylvania State House. So one of the exciting things about having these 3 representatives is the changes that have happened in the state. State politics have looked pretty much the same for a long time. And then you get elected and you show up to work, and who's in charge of the House? All right? What was that first month like? All right? Tasha, Mandy, talk to us. I mean, you come to work and it's just, what is going on? Like, what is happening?
What is going on? So I just want to make it clear that our term actually begins before we are sworn in. So our term begins December 1st. So you are in charge. So November 30th, you're not in charge of your district. December 1st, you are responsible for your district. You are responsible for your district office. And that is something that I want people to know. So you get to see the cute and fun and an amazing swearing-in day. I love pomp and circumstance, so I live for those kinds of days in all parts of my life. But we're responsible for our districts on December 1st. And so we're getting emails. We're participating in caucus meetings. And, you know, we have computers and phones. Like, we are doing the work before we're even sworn in. And so we had conversations about what would likely happen coming in. So it wasn't blind. We had to solve strategy of what is possible. Now, when Manny and I, Rep. Steele and I were there, it wasn't clear what was going to happen. But we were pretty confident that our now speaker didn't have the 102. And so what would that look like? We did not want the alternative, which would be to have a Republican Speaker of the House. And so whatever conversations were and whatever deals were struck to ensure that a Democrat would be the Speaker of the House, we understood that that was on the table and our job was to make it happen. And so that is how we were able to elect Rep. Rozzi, former Speaker, the shortest lived Speaker of the House, to his role. And then we were on pause as we tried to work through our first bills, House Bill 1 and House Bill 2, around childhood sexual violence and providing a window for justice for survivors and victims. And that's exactly what we did before we would allow any kind of shenanigans to happen, is to get that justice. And I'm glad that I was part of this really unbelievable experience in the first 4 weeks of office, but we learned a lot. It was definitely be prepared for anything, because that's what it was like to be on the House floor. You know, when you're new, you're learning. So we are literally learning while we're building our bicycle and trying to ride it at the same time. But we did it well. We played it well. I supported the caucus leadership then under now Speaker Joanna McClinton, and I, support our current leadership under Leader Matt Bradford.
Rep. Steele?
Well, I think Latasha hit all the points there. She and I were together in those crazy first few weeks. Listen, I was just glad I had been able to run to the eye doctor and get my new prescription so that I could see clearly the faces of Joanna and a couple of other key players, and watch all of that unfold on that floor. No one knew what was gonna happen, but Joanna was, now Speaker Joanna McClinton, was a strong and unwavering leader for us. So though there was so much chaos and so much confusion at times, with Joanna as our leader, we were okay. We were a strong, united group who worked collaboratively and moved forward in lockstep. So it was a heck of a team building. We are part of the largest and most diverse class to ever be elected in Pennsylvania. Our class is strong together. We move together in a good, cohesive way. Abigail.
And it was a little bit different for you.
I had a different first one.
Yes, you did.
So I was one of the 3 special election candidates. So I didn't have the December, January, February experience that they had because I didn't get sworn in until February 21st. So I didn't experience all of those same moments. So I guess I'll say the thing that has been the hardest for me is more of a personal thing, and not to make everything all about me, but it's been more of a personal thing because I have a disability. I have an autoimmune disease. March is also autoimmune disease month, but I have an autoimmune disease and I have problems using my hands. I pass out sometimes. From standing for long periods of time. So if I sit while I'm talking to you, please don't be offended, but it's because literally I pass out. I passed out at a campaign event and somebody told me, you shouldn't drink so much at campaign events. I said, I'm not drunk, I just get lightheaded. So I have had, in my sole practice, I've put in place certain ways of working that allow me to function without necessarily having to use my hands, because my hands don't always work because I have severe arthritis. So I have had to fit into a way of doing things that I didn't design. And so it may sound little, like a phone I can use. Sounds like no big deal, but it's actually been a really big deal. Dictation software was a really big deal because these things weren't provided and didn't work. And so I've had to do some advocacy around reasonable accommodations for disabilities because I was initially denied some of the reasonable accommodations that I requested. So for me, again, not to make everything about me, but I had a different experience. I wasn't around when they were experiencing some of those moments, but it's been a real adjustment. The morning we were sworn in on the 21st, I passed out in Pittsburgh, and I actually called and said, is there any possibility I could do this tomorrow? And the answer I was told was, we will send the state police to come and get you. So I was like, okay, we'll have my husband drive, no big deal. But it's been a real adjustment to me, and I think, and when we talk about diversity, there are many different kinds of diversity, right? And so sometimes I'm hesitant to talk about some of the struggles that I have because I don't want people to think I can't do it. But I can do it, but sometimes I just need a little bit of help, and so I hope going forward in our caucus we will provide people with that help so that we can have more people who maybe are differently abled. Yes.
One of the most diverse class on many levels.
Right.
Other big change. We have female leadership that are running our House and our Senate. We've got female leadership in both parties taking leadership roles. Coro's nonpartisan. So what does that mean? Is there something different coming to the table? That we have this very different kind of leadership that also may lend itself to breaking up some of the, frankly, just logjam that just comes as we're just butting heads. What have you seen that is different kind of leadership with these changes and having a much more diverse skill set in place?
Do you want to start at your end?
I'll start on this one. Because this is something that's meaningful to me. I know many wonderful men in my life, of course, and there's so much to offer us. But to me, what I see as one of the great differences between women and men is that women are more empathetic. We are better listeners and can really listen to a room full of people and then to take away so much information through that listening process. I see that with Speaker McClinton. She's exceptionally good at that. And that is going to change this divisive tone that we've had, because if we are truly listening to people, we are finding common ground. We are not as focused on the fringe. We are pulling together people when we are listening to them. So I see that evolution happening with more women in leadership all across the aisle on both sides, and I think that's why we need more and more women to step in these leadership roles, especially when we are facing the existential crisis that is climate change. We are going to need to be attacking this in a collaborative way, and we're going to need our women leaders more than ever.
I said at a speaking engagement last night that it makes a difference of who's in the room when decisions are being made. And so we have the most women elected to the General Assembly ever, and we're still only at about 30%. But guess what? That 30% changes how we talk about issues, policy, legislation, how we engage in the strategy of it all, because I want to be very clear, it is a strategy. Things do not happen like they do on Schoolhouse Rock. I'm just a bill, just a lonely old bill. There's no lonely bills in the House of Representatives. Thousands of bills will be introduced. But which ones will make it out of committee? Which ones have the support to pass? And so we are a part of these processes to make sure that the best legislation comes out of our chamber. And so for me, I believe very deeply in women's leadership. And that's been my whole journey. That's how I'm sitting here today, in my personal life and my professional life. But when you talk about things like sexual harassment in the workplace, you can only do that if you've experienced sexual harassment in the workplace. And if you don't have women there and gender expansive folks there to talk about what they have gone through as legislators, sitting in that position, that's a powerful platform. And so that's why we're able to change the rules in our House about people being able to bring a case against a legislator when they engage and they perpetrate in sexual harassment. And it's not just when we're in the building, it's when we're also out at restaurants and receptions and other places where we are conducting ourselves as elected leaders. But you have to have people in the room who have had the experiences to create, shape, and move legislation in a way that's going to serve, we always are trying to serve all Pennsylvanians, but we also have a duty to bring justice and equity and stand in those gaps that sometimes policy and legislation can do, and that is the difference I believe that women and women of color and Black women in particular make. I do want to talk about our numbers. So I mentioned we make up 31%, that's about 70 or 80 legislators. But out of 203 legislators, there are only 12 women of color. And there's 11 Black women. I'm one from Western Pennsylvania. So, there's a way that you're coming into the space to represent interests, not only as a woman, but as a Black woman and a Black queer, Black lesbian woman from Western Pennsylvania. I'm carrying different interests than my colleagues who are coming from Philadelphia County and Delaware County. And so I think that it helps us to have a more robust democracy when we have the greatest representation. And while we are doing well, we have this diverse class, but we still have so far to go in terms of what representation looks like around race and gender and ability and so many other pieces of identity that just are not in the House of Representatives right now.
I think the thing that I always try to keep in mind as well is that women are not a monolith. Not every woman has the same political beliefs, right? Just because, and sometimes I kind of get that in my brain. I'm like, women think XYZ, and sometimes it's no, women from certain background, from certain area, et cetera, might think XYZ. And so we have to keep in mind that there's, you know, an entire, we all are Democrats, and so there's an entire other half of the chamber that has, you know, the Republican caucus has women in it who may have very, very divergent beliefs from ours, but, you know, their voices are part of the women's voices in the PA House too. And so I think that, I can't speak for the others here, but sometimes I'm in my liberal nest. And I sort of sometimes get a shock, oh, you don't believe that at all, do you? Okay. So it's something to keep in mind.
Well, I know we don't have you all day, and again, we could keep you for a long, long time. But I want to give the bulk of the time we have left to each of you to speak to not just what is your top issue, but we also, this is a room full of folks that recognize that it takes a village to move those bills off that hill and get them recognized. It means talking across tables like this to people that we may be aligned with, but may not necessarily always agree with. Or we maybe never found a place that we would, but we have to find a way to work. So I'm thinking about what y'all talked about, the pieces and the elements, the types of leadership, being empathetic, being open, finding a way to build those connections, and also being focused on strategy, right? So we would like to help you be strategic. And with that, what I'd like you to do is to take a minute to think about if there is one place that we could focus our energy for you on an issue, whether it is a small rules thing or a big rules thing that is catalytic, or if it's a particular issue that right now is having a moment and with the right push you could tip it over the edge. We know you all believe in amazing things, and we're going to continue to work and support you in so many ways. But what's the thing in the next, before you hit budget season, let's say that would be really helpful for the community that is here, for us to spread as talking points and be able to give you some support on? And I know that's a different kind of issue question. So if you need a moment to think, that's cool.
So I've spoken a lot about infrastructure. So to me, that's a top of mind issue. But one that I want people to keep in mind is that I want to empower local government to be able to do more in their communities. So I've been on Borough Council in Swissvale for 5 years, and I cannot tell you the number of people who have been only too excited to meet with me in the last couple months who would not have given me the time of day when I was Borough Council President. And people who I have begged for meetings for years. Oh, Rep, what can I do for you, Rep? How can we help you, Rep? And I said, I'm not a different person. And I was an elected official then too, and I had been picked by people in my community. Now granted, it's a 9,000 person borough, you know, it's not a 60,000 person district, but I'm on the local government committee. Everybody tells me I'm out of my mind because I got put on liquor, which is a very coveted committee. And I gave it up and I traded it away to be put on local government committee. And to me, that's critically important because those local governments, and I have 12 boroughs and townships in my district, those are the frontline people who are working on things like the Norfolk Southern Bridge that's shut down in Swissvale, for instance. There are many, many, many of those issues. Fighting blight. These are frontline issues that I've tried to get people to pay attention to and talk to me about for years, and only now are they interested in having that conversation with me. So my goal and my plan is to use the position that I've been put in to take advantage of those meetings that people are now willing to have with me so that I can connect them to the local elected officials and empower those local elected officials to do what they need to do. I'm working on a piece of legislation that would pay for grant writers for small communities that have never been able to get state grants so that they can access that. Because of those 12 communities that I have in my district, maybe like 4 or 5 of them get all the money. So is it because they only need them? No, it's because they have people who are able to do the grant process. So I come from a nonprofit background, so I said, is there anything like a capacity building grant where we can pay for somebody to get a grant writer? And they said, no. I said, let's make that then. So that's what I'm working on. We need to empower local elected officials to be able to do a great job because they know better than we know, what's going on that particular street corner, what needs to be fixed. So that's what I would like to get accomplished and support for.
That's really important stuff, Abigail. I'm so glad you're working. I come from Borough Council too, so that is critically important. What I want to talk about is climate and clean energy. Surprise! That's the issue that keeps me up at night is that oil and gas ain't paying their fair share, and they are taking the gas that is under our feet and they're selling it for massive profits. Those are our resources. That is our birthright. It is enshrined in our Constitution that is our birthright. Yet they are taking advantage of us in a way that is shocking. Texas is more progressive than us on this issue. Texas generates over $1 billion a year in fees and taxation from oil and gas. What could we do with $1 billion here? We could solve a heck of a lot of our problems. So I spent a whole lot of time talking with members of our Republican Party, because if this idea that I have is going to pass, we need it. And what I am proposing is that we increase the impact fee on oil and gas, okay? So we need to be talking about how we want that as Pennsylvanians, how we know it's our right, and when that happens, we will see cleaner fracking operations. Fracking is here to stay for the short term. How do we do it in as clean a way as possible? There are ways. If we increase the impact fee, we can make that happen, and we can see so much money to solve our issues with our schools, gun violence, all the issues that Abigail mentioned, and Latasha will talk about. So please spread the word on that, because they are stealing from us, and we can change it. It's a solvable problem. Catherine, you with me, right? Thank you.
Thank you, Restio. So I always have lots of issues. So to me, we have the opportunity to pass the Fairness Act, which would expand our Pennsylvania Human Relations Act, to provide civil and legal protections for all residents, but particularly LGBTQ plus residents. So depending where you live, what county or municipality, if there is not an ordinance or a law that protects you from discrimination in employment, housing, and public accommodations, you can be fired, you can be thrown out your housing, you can be denied service in a restaurant like this. And so this bill has been in the works for at least a decade. First introduced by Rep. Dan Frankel, who led our Equality Caucus for many years. But guess what? There's actually LGBTQ legislators who can lead that caucus. It's led by Rep. Malcolm Kenyatta out of Philadelphia, as well as Rep. Jess Benham here in Allegheny County. So this is about basic human rights protections. And so I believe that we can get this done before we approve our budget in June. Prayerfully, it will be in June, because I'm trying to go on vacation in July. Seriously. But it's something that we can do. It has bipartisan support, and I know we can get it out the House in June if we put a heavy focus on it. And I also want to talk about Black maternal health. Important work that is at the center of my reproductive justice work that I've done for over 20 years. This Black Maternal Health Week is coming up April 11th through the 17th. And so we will be having a day at the Capitol on April 13th. Ashley Cummins will be coming up and to testify. It's part of our policy hearing that we'll be hosting. And I have the honor of chairing the subcommittee, the Joint Subcommittee on Women and Girls of Color, which is a collaboration between the Women's Health Caucus and the Legislative Black Caucus. And so we want to advance at least one of the bills. There's one that will extend postpartum care from 60 days to 1 year. So we know that it takes time for moms of all backgrounds to really be healthy and well, but for Black moms who are 2 and 3 times more likely to die before, during, and after birth, we need to make sure that they have the care that they need. And so it's been administratively in place, but now we need to codify it in the law. And those are 2 bills that I think that we can make happen before June is over.
We have our marching orders. If you didn't take notes, I know you can get some more from these wonderful representatives right here. You know so many people. This region is barely 2 degrees of separation. All those conversations that maybe have been really hard over the last couple of years, or you might have different ideas. Here are some that you can bring to the table and have a robust discussion and get some agreement. You might be able to talk to that random cousin I don't invite. We are lucky that we have this amazing crew, but it wasn't luck that got them there. It was incredibly hard work. I want to remind this group of people that have been working or just starting to work on making change that it often takes 5 to 8 asks of a woman to consider running for office before they actually start taking it seriously. That's still true. And we've got examples. I want to make sure that we just take a quick moment to have a round of applause for whoever those 8 asks were for these incredible representatives. We'd love to keep you. We want to let you go. But we have to say thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you for being there representing all of us. And thanks for sharing your wisdom with us and letting us know how we can move things forward to make the change. I'm going to close up by thanking also, I can't not thank Joanne and Bonnie, who I would not be where I am without their leadership, their support, their mentorship for, we just figured out a lot of decades. Okay? I'm also going to do a quick shout out to my organization, which made a big difference in my life, and I'm happy to be leading it now again, because one of our fabulous reps is in fact Coro Fellow alum, and we're just in the process of having our fellows wrap up, and we're in the process of selecting next year's National Fellows. And this morning we launched a neighborhood leaders program in Toledo, specifically focused on public health with an emphasis on Black maternal and infant health. So I wanted to say there's lots of folks out here doing lots of good work, and if you want to help out with that, please.
I would like to call, every year when we do this, we celebrate women and we share with an organization. And this year, because I love books, books open minds, open hearts, especially for children. I came from a turbulent childhood, and sometimes books were my only salvation. So I know how important books are to children. So I'm so pleased that we are sharing with Progress Through Pages. Would Michelle Knoll please come up? We not only have collected these books, but everybody wants to give us donations so we can buy her more books. That's fine. We love that. We have, what do we have? We have you to speak.
Okay, do you want me to speak here or?
Right there.
I'm not afraid to donate. Here's $20.
Thank you.
I knew there was a reason I like that man.
Thank you all for coming. A portion of your purchase of your admission today for lunch goes towards buying books. I was an early interventionist in my previous life, and I worked for 16 years with children with delays and disabilities. And when I would go into their homes as a developmental specialist, these children often didn't have any books, and I was supposed to be working on early literacy. And early literacy has a lot to do with when a child has a book, we all know talking and walking are developmental milestones, but turning pages in a book are developmental milestones. Whoops. And writing a book, if you pick up a book upside down, you know to turn it around. That's a developmental milestone. Pointing to pictures in a book and naming the pictures are developmental milestones. If you don't have a book, you're missing all of that, and that puts you behind when you start school. In the past, I started this at the end of 2018. We have gotten 10,000 books out into the community, into the region. These go into resilient neighborhood schools, and honestly, when I started, I really saw a need in daycares and with very, very young children. But then I came to find that school-age children didn't have books. This week alone, we moved 325 books from an Avonworth library, because they're reducing the footprint of their high school and junior high library, to Ambridge High School. That will be selected, self-selected by kids at a Title I evening. Jeremiah's Place benefited from getting books. That's the emergency daycare just yesterday. And also, where else did I take them? I forgot, it was a busy week. The Hello Neighbor. Families that are moving new to this neighborhood, to this area, they are refugees, and I was able to select books for children from all over the world, books that represented children who are Spanish speaking. I was able to give books for those kids too. You today, with coming to this lunch, have given the gift of literacy. And that's the most valuable gift, because, I wore a different hat earlier, but the League of Women Voters believes that education is the key to good government. And if you can't read, you cannot make it through to have a successful life. My mom grew up in abject poverty and had one book, my uncle told me. When she was a child, she was able to get to her relatives on the weekend and read books and spend time where there were people who would take time with her to read to her. My mom got her undergraduate degree after I was born, many years after she started. She got her master's, she got her principal certificate, her reading specialist, her reading supervisor. She was a reading specialist in Stowe Rock School District, and then she got her doctorate. And she taught as a professor teachers how to teach reading. So, and I want you to know, we get this out to Stowe Rocks, Ambridge, Cornell, Northgate, Duquesne School District, any kind of community. We work with UPMC health fairs. We go to Coriopolis's community, I can't remember all the name of that. We work with JFCS, and we work with, in the Bridges program for children. When I get multiple copies, they read with kids. So these go to multiple kind of needs all over the region and outside of the Allegheny County as well. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart, and these will go into my stash, and I will recirculate them probably within the month to children who don't have a book. So thank you very much.
There is an organization that understands, and run by women, how important getting good, progressive people, women, are elected in Pennsylvania. And so we do have that background. But please keep that in mind. The money counts. With that, thank you very much for spending your money here today.